Former President Donald Trump selecting Ohio Senator JD Vance as his running mate as the Republican National Convention gets underway. The announcement also coming days after the assassination attempt on Trump at a campaign rally over the weekend. Joining me now is Henrietta Treyz, Veda Partners Managing Partner and Director of Economic Policy. Henrietta, it is great to see you. So let's start with that headline. Trump does pick Senator Vance as his running mate. Henrietta, give me your reaction.
Yeah, I mean, very much expected. There was some hullabaloo about Nikki Haley potentially being the VP after the shooting and her invitation to join the RNC this week. But I think it was pretty well telegraphed in advance that JD Vance was going to be the guy. So most importantly for your viewers, obviously this is a member whose views have shifted quite a lot since he's risen to national prominence. On things probably most importantly on the trade front, very supportive of tariffs, weakening the U.S. dollar. I expect to see full-throated endorsements of very aggressive trade policies as a major hallmark here. His position on abortion is potentially a major problem, but one that I think Trump is already saddled with. The senator has historically supported Texas's ban on abortion, although he's migrated away from that in recent weeks, depending on which outlets he's speaking with. But I think in general, this presents another very sort of MAGA universe ticket and makes a lot of sense from Trump's perspective and in terms of the base that he's trying to galvanize going into November.
I saw this pick, Henrietta, too. I'd love to get your take on this as suggesting that Trump is very confident here he's going to take the White House. Is that how you saw it?
I do think there's a lot of confidence, particularly in the wake of the assassination. I don't know that there's any reason to be concerned about the Senate seat. You know, Ohio is very Republican now. Sherrod Brown is in for sort of the fight of his life, running for the Senate in the state. So I think that there is some protection built in to that extent. I also think that JD Vance, being from Ohio, is potentially instructive on the state of the race in Pennsylvania. Midwestern states, Rust Belt states tend to vote as sort of a unit. And so choosing to go with someone from Ohio could have read through to the media universe in Pennsylvania, which I think makes a lot of sense as well strategically.
The momentum seems to be with Trump right now, Henrietta. I'm just curious to get your kind of temperature check on the Biden campaign, where they're at now and where you see them headed.
Well, right now, I think they're in a state of suspended animation. I mean, the whole entire Democratic Party, I thought, was very much trending towards getting Biden out of the race. He cannot win another term, is basically as blunt as I would put it. Kamala Harris fares better in all of the swing states, and that is what the Democratic Party needs right now. 62% of Democrats, per one of the polls that came out this weekend, don't want Biden to be the nominee. So I think in the wake of the shooting, what's happened is that Democrats have suspended all their campaigning. But now with the announcement of JD Vance, that's going to pick up again. So we got, 72 hours of reprieve, and now it's going to be full steam ahead. And the Biden camp is going to have a lot of very difficult conversations still with donors, with the DNC, campaign officials who are already presenting very detailed programs and sort of ways of getting around having Biden on the ticket, having an open mini convention that starts after the RNC. I think those calls are going to pick up as we head into the next couple of days.
Is your bet right now, though, Henrietta, when you're talking to your clients, is your bet that it is, though, Biden on the ticket?
No, it's not. I'm at 70% that Biden will not be on the ticket. I see Kamala as the next most likely candidate, the vice president. I think that for a whole host of reasons. Number one, a number of the potential replacements, Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, are not engaging in the process right now. Number two, I think technically it's easier from a campaign finance perspective. And number three, I think as vice president, as someone who's got the firm backing of Jim Clyburn and was moved to the top of the ticket back in 2020 for this very purpose, I think skipping over her would be wildly unlikely. So I will admit that my odds are a little bit in flux because of the shooting, and I'll migrate that as we see polling data. In the absence of data, my expectation remains the 70% odds that Biden will not be the nominee on the Democratic ticket in November.
But and yet, Henrietta, when you listen to President Biden in these interviews, he's so adamant, Henrietta. I mean, he makes it, at least he says, listen, I'm not going anywhere voluntarily. So what's the mechanism you sort of get through that or around that?
It's more than anything, it's really just time. I think that the Democratic Party is being very conscientious of their support and respect and adoration for President Biden. who's passed 4 massive pieces of legislation in the last 4 years, including 2 reconciliation bills and 2 bipartisan bills, in something that we haven't seen in modern history, whether it was Obama or Trump in his first term. Pulling the United States out of COVID, having the lowest sub 4% unemployment rate since the 1960s, massive wage growth. These are all things that the Democrats are very, very proud of, and they're not going to boot Biden unceremoniously. The reality is his age is a real problem, and he's not able to combat the narrative that Trump is selling, and that is the issue.
Henrietta, great to have you on the show. Thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks for having me.